so I just figured I could add another 20 in there and just really go for the gold here. Hiya, it's Tia and welcome back to another video. So today I'm in a different location, and that is because my shelves are a wreck from picking up 20 of the books. I figured I would just go into a different place for today. So I'm very excited for this video. It's something that I kind of thought would be funny and like a play on the year, because 2020 sounds really fake. And I'm very excited about all of these books. So I wanted to do this video with all physical books that I already own, minus one of the books that doesn't come out yet, but I will be owning it physically. This doesn't include library books that I get physically or on audio or ebook, just because that would be incredibly hard to pick 20 books from. So I could do those videos if I wanted to, but my library is very weird with books. They don't get them right away, or they just get rid of books randomly. It's very hard to figure out what books I'm going to be reading. The video is hopefully not going to be like horrifically long, but I don't want to make it any longer by making this intro incredibly long and boring. So I'm just gonna go right for it. So the first book that I want to read is by an author who I loved her debut novel, and I'm really excited for this book, and that is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. The Hate U Give was fantastic, and I absolutely love Angie Thomas, like on Twitter, and she just seems like the kindest person in the entire world, and I'm very excited for this book. So this book follows Bree, and Bree's dad was a hip-hop legend, and he's now dead. And that was so insensitive to say it that way, but he's now passed on, and she wants to be a rapper, but it's hard to fill the shoes of her dad, who was such a legend, and she doesn't want to tarnish his memory, but she also wants to be a rapper and be present. And knowing Angie, there's going to be some commentary on racism or something of social justice issues in this book, and I'm honestly here for it. I love seeing like issues that are so present in teenagers' lives to happen with teenagers, because very often books seem to think that teenagers don't go through anything, even though we go through very much, just because it's literature, and it's very hard to connect with a character who's absolutely perfect when we live in a very different world from them, and I like seeing that in books, and I'm very excited about it. The next book is a book that I want to buddy read with a good friend of mine, Johely from As Told by Johely. I absolutely adore her, and we've been talking about buddy reading something for like a year now, and we finally kind of picked a book, but we haven't figured out when we're going to read it, but I am very excited for this read, and that is for The Last to Let Go. I'm very excited about this book. It sounds like a heavy-hitting, hard book to read, but something that with somebody else will be easier to comprehend and understand every detail and every hard part about it. This book follows Brooke, whose dad was very abusive, and her mother, in a crime of passion, decided to kill him to defend her and her daughter. And now the main character has to live with a dead parent and a imprisoned one, and it is something that is very hard to even think about happening in your own life, but something that is very real and something that is very close to home for a lot of people. So I think this is going to be a very good book. That it's a heavy book, and it's something that I'm going to need to be in the right mindset for, as is anybody who does plan to read this. So please be aware of every trigger warning in this book before you plan to read it. So on a little bit of a more happier note, the next book is a book that me and my mom both want to read, because she adores James Patterson, and this book is from his like publishing company kind of thing, and it sounds like something we're both very interested in. So that is Girls Made of Paper and Fire. This book is very sapphic, which I wasn't really aware of until the second book had two girls on the cover. I'll insert it over here real quick. There it is. Okay, this book follows a main character whose name is Lee, I think. So she has golden eyes, and these people are rare in this world. The king decides to take her out of her home and like make her be his like mistress, but like not consensually. And then she falls in love with another girl, and there's like romance and drama and a lot of things. So I'm assuming there's trigger warnings for rape in here, so if that is something that's going to bother you, I might be very aware of this. It sounds like something that is very good. I clearly don't know very much about it, except for I was sold on a female-female romance, so yeah. The next book is a very short book, but it is the third book in the Wayward Children series, Beneath the Sugar Sky. I read the first two books, which, the way this is set up is every other book is set in, like, this school for wayward children, and the other books are, like, set in the doors that they go to. So basically, in this world, there's doors, and you might find them in, like, trunks or behind shelves or an actual door, and these children go into them, and for sometimes years or months, they're in this totally separate world, and when they come back, they're very traumatized, and they don't know how to process the world because time is differently in both places. So in some worlds, a year here is a day here, or sometimes 3 days here is 16 years over here, and having to deal with how different the world is after leaving, they go to this school. So this book follows a person from the first book's, like, child. I'm not going to spoil anything, though. I can't really talk about it too much without it. This book came out a while ago. It's very short. They're all novellas, and I really enjoy this series. It's very interesting to see how much Shannon Maguire can put into a story without having very much length to go on. Sometimes I wish there could be more, but honestly, I very much enjoy the short, quick stories that she gives us. How quickly I can read them and how much I feel like I've been given in just such a short amount of time, it's honestly really, really great. I very much enjoy these stories, and I highly recommend them to everybody. The fifth book I want to read before 2020 is a historical fiction by an author whom I read a different book by, and that is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. It's actually Sepetys, but you know, carry on. I read Between Shades of Grey last summer, and I very much enjoyed it. It was set in World War II, but from, like, the Lithuanian camps, and it was very interesting. But this book is also set in World War II, but it is from a different perspective. The synopsis doesn't tell me what it's from, but I very, very much like reading history and comparing it to reality and seeing how sometimes history does repeat itself and what we should be doing to prevent that repeat. I really liked her writing in Between Shades of Grey, and I think I'm going to like it in this book as well. It sounds like something up my alley, and the cover is very pretty as well. I know you can't see it from very far away, but it's very pretty, and it sounds good. The, like, tagline is Winter 1945, 4 teenagers, 4 secrets, and that honestly just sucks me in. The next few stories are from an author that everybody knows and everybody loves, and I can't really give a lot of detail on these stories just because it will spoil the earlier books in the Chronicles. So the first one I'm going to just say on its own because it is a short story collection, but it is a hefty one, and that is Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare and a few other authors. This book is very thick for a paperback. How's it binded together? It's like putting War and Peace in a paperback and be like, phew. Anyway, I can't tell you what it's about because major spoilers. But I love the Shadowhunter Chronicles. I know I'm in the majority. I know it's like a guilty pleasure for a lot of people, but I think they're well written. I like the story. I like seeing the different kinds of, like, demons and downworlders and stuff. It's very interesting to me. I don't read a lot of fantasy, so that might be why I like them so much, but there's something that I could just easily get sucked into and easily love because these characters are so easily enjoyable. And I'm very excited for this short story collection. I just read the Bane Chronicles and absolutely adored them, and I really do think I'm going to like this one as well. If you can see, they're kind of separated, so there's a lot of chances for some good ones. And the way I rate short stories is I rate each individual story and then I add them all together and divide it by the total number of stories just to get an average, because if I try to rate it based on, like, the best ones, it just becomes too messy and it's too much. So the next 3 books are also by Cassandra Clare, and these books did come out a while ago. I like reading her books as trilogy, so I read the first 3 Mortal Instruments, then I read the Infernal Devices, then I read the last 3 Mortal Instruments, then I'm reading the short stories and the Shadowhunter Codex. I like binge reading series. I don't know why, it's just something I like to do, so I'm very excited for all of these books. I'm very excited for most of Cassandra's books, but specifically these 3. Yeah, I can't really tell you what they're about because I'm pretty sure they're gonna spoil the other books. Also, I don't know what they're about. So yeah, they're also really heavy, so I'm going to put them down. I don't know why I'm holding it with one hand. So this book marks halfway, and that is The Starlit Wood by a bunch of authors. Oh, Shauna McGuire's one of them. Huh, we love that. Okay, it's edited by Dominique Parasine and Navia Wolf. I was given this as a book to review really long time ago. I'm very bad at reviewing books that people just like randomly send to me, and I also went for a long time I would just like ask for everything, but now I ask for nothing because my followers are like 5. Honestly don't know what this book is about, but it's been on my shelf forever, so I feel like I just need to suck it up and read them all. I don't know what this book is about. I don't know anything about it, so cue the dramatic lighting because I don't know anything. Once upon a time, in the desert, in a tower, on a spaceship, in the other country. For centuries, storytellers have crafted timeless tales and have always found a place in our hearts. Here, a new generation of critically acclaimed, award-winning authors have taken up their mantle and shaped traditional and extraordinary fairy tales into something startling and electrifying. From castles to canyons, from a post-human landscape to a pixelated dungeon, from the far future to fantastical realms, The Starlit Wood transforms 18 stories you once thought you knew and takes you on a journey at once unexpected and familiar across time, space, and amazing new worlds. And it's featuring a lot of authors. I'm not going to read them all because it's like way too much. We'll see if I actually end up reading this. Maybe I'll leave it on my shelf for another 50 years and then make a video in like my olden age that I'm like books I should have read 50 years ago, because this would be on it. Yeah. Very similarly, this book was given to me by a dear friend of mine on Bookstagram, and I started to read it, but then I DNF'd it because I was reading a ton of other things at the time. I have hair on me and it won't leave. I need to read it, and I think when I read The Starlit Wood, I will try to read this after that, and that is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This was given to me by Emmi Rose Reads on Bookstagram. I will link her down below. She is absolutely amazing. She is a doll. I adore her. She's the absolute sweetest. When I read it the first time, I don't remember anything from it. So I think if I go into it with like hopes, it might be better, because I truly don't remember anything. I'm really hoping I remember more. Honestly, I just need to read it, because even if it's bad, I have a good story. Because you see, when I read a bad book, I don't just think this is the worst, I have to get through it. I like to make it enjoyable. I like to see how many times an author uses the em-dash, how many times there's sex rocks mountains. You know, I like to see how many times a wingspan is compared to dick size. I enjoy that, and I think it's very funny to like make fun of books when they're bad instead of just like hating yourself. And I will DNF a book if it's like awful, but you know, here we are. So I think whether it's good or bad, I'm gonna have a whole time reading this book, and I'm hyped for it, honestly. Next 2 books are rereads, because I wasn't going to include rereads on here, but at the same time I had 2 more spots I needed to fill, so I decided to add these in here. These 2 books are books that I've been rereading this series since last December. I read a couple more during the readathon, and I plan on really rereading it 2 more times. 1 more time on audio, 1 more time to like critically read these. They are first editions with no jacket covers, because I'm literal trash, and also the person that gave them to me was a trash person with trash ideals, and that is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. These 2 books follow Harry Potter in his story of trashhood. He's sassy, he's great, and J.K. Rowling really isn't. These books are great, so honestly, hyped to read it, because I already read the 5th one, which is my favorite one, but these 2 books are honestly some of my favorites. A lot of things happens in them. It's great. I'm kind of getting crazier as this video goes on, and if you stayed this long, like, keep staying, because I just get weirder the more I film, because I get more like comfortable with it. So yeah. So this book I got on vacation like 3 years ago, because I never go on vacation. Well, I got it at this random bookstore. It was like $1.50, and I was very excited for it. But then I never read it, because I saw chelseadolling read it a very long time ago. She'll be linked below. And I was like, I've got to read it. And I also think that this whole scandal that it's like kind of based off of was like a whole time, and I think it'd be really funny to read it as an NA book. And that is Young Jane Young. This book follows Jane, who's basically Monica Lewinsky, and the whole scandal there. There's a lot of things I could talk about with the actual scandal that this book follows, but I'm not going to because we don't need to get any more political here than we already are. This book is very here, and I'm going to read it. So, yeah. And the next 5 books are all by the same author, but I'm going to split them up into the 2 different series. So the first series is the Grisha Trilogy series, and that is Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. They're all by Leigh Bardugo. Everybody knows who Leigh Bardugo is. She sounds very great. These books sound like they're not great, but the next books sound like they're fantastic, but you need to read these in order to read those. So I'm honestly just going to read these, and I think I'm going to take the Paperback Dreams advice and just kind of laugh my way through them, as I do with a lot of bad books. And if they happen to surprise me, they happen to surprise me, but I'm not holding my breath that they're going to be groundbreaking novels. At the time they might have been, but they might not be anymore, so we're here for that. The last 2 books obviously are Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. These books sound fantastic. They're heisty, they're morally great characters, they're super diverse cast. I'm very excited for these ones. I know I have to get through the Grisha Trilogy books just to be able to read these. I know certain people say you don't have to read both, but I like having all the knowledge before I hop into a book. So I'm very excited for these books. I don't know what they're about, and pretty much everybody does, so literally hop onto any channel if you want to find out. As I've been filming this, I was thinking, you know what would be a cool honorable mention? A book that I love. And I think this series is truly, like, the groundbreaking series. Everybody knows Harry Potter did wonders for just the book community in general, specifically like middle grade and I guess YA. And so this series, I think, truly shaped YA and truly shaped a lot of people in this community. And this series honestly set the tone for dystopian books. And it's a series that everybody knows, everybody loves, and I'm just going to hold them up because I love them. And that is the Hunger Games trilogy. These books are something at the time I thought were fantastic. And then I got older and I thought, maybe they aren't as good as they are. And I didn't want to reread them because I wanted to hold that memory of loving them so much. But then I saw Crescent Moon Reads, linked below, that she read them again because they are one of her favorite series. And she loved them just as much because they're truly that series. They're the series that every series wanted to be after that. They're the series that, like, shaped people. And I adore this series, and I think that I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm not sure if I want to reread them this year or next year, right before the next series comes out. Honestly, whenever somebody does a readathon for them again, I'm going to read them, and I think I'm going to really love rereading them. So that is it for this video. Those are the 20 books I want to read before 2020. I'm very, very excited for what this year has in store for me. It's my senior year, and I'm really just looking forward to college, and I'm going to make this last year of high school very enjoyable. And I thought I should probably make my reading life very enjoyable. And so yeah, I love y'all so much. I hope y'all enjoy, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!